Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kendra and today I'm going to be doing my top 5 books that I read in spring. The first book that I want to talk about is Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier, and this is about a couple named Marion and Derek. They're at this carnival one day and their son ends up going missing, and their son's been missing for almost a year now, and their marriage has been really rocky. And Marion ends up hiring a private investigator, and she starts digging up some secrets that will destroy her marriage. This is the first book that I've read by this author, and I was blown away when I read this. I absolutely loved it. This is an adult thriller. And I loved all of the twists and turns throughout this book. I loved how this book kept me on my toes the whole entire time, and I was dying to know what happened to their son, and I just love this book. So if you have not read this one yet, I highly recommend picking this one up. This next one that I want to talk about is Masterclass by Christina Doucher, and this one is about every child's future depends on this standardized test called the Q. If you score really high, then you go to a top tier school and you will have better opportunities in the future. If you score low, then you go to a federal boarding school and have fewer opportunities. This book is about Elena. She has 2 daughters. One goes to a top tier school and her younger daughter goes to a middle blue school. Elena is a teacher at the top tier school, and then her husband is also involved in the whole education system as well. And then Elena's younger daughter ends up taking her monthly tests. She ends up failing and is shipped to the federal boarding school. So Elena wants to figure out what is actually going on at these federal boarding schools, so she ends up failing her monthly teaching tests as well. So she also gets shipped off there to teach, and the federal boarding school is definitely not what it seems. So I loved this book so much. This is in a dystopian, and I just love reading dystopian novels because I feel like these could maybe actually potentially happen in our future, which is crazy to me. When I was reading this, I was like, yeah, this could definitely happen in the future. I hope to God it never does. I felt like this book was very emotional towards the end because of everything that was going on. I also think this book is a very thought-provoking book, and it is great for discussions and a book club. If you are looking for a book club, I think this one would be great to discuss with other people, or even buddy reading this book would be a great option for this book. But overall, I really loved this book, and I highly recommend this one if you haven't picked it up yet. This next book that I want to talk about is The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and this book is set on an island off the coast of Ireland, and you're following Jules and Will. They are getting married, and everyone in their wedding party has dark secrets, and you slowly start to find out who was murdered and who did it. So this book was absolutely phenomenal. I was not going to pick up this book, and I picked it up on a whim, and I am so glad that I did because this book was so good. Oh my gosh, this is another adult thriller, and I loved how the author just kept giving you like little breadcrumbs throughout the book, telling you like who the murderer is, who actually was murdered. And I loved how you didn't know until literally the very end, and I was completely shocked. I had no clue, did not even guess anything. So if you're looking for a whodunit book, I highly recommend picking this one up. Next book that I want to talk about is No Exit by Taylor Adams. This is about Darby. She is on the way to the hospital to see her mother before she has surgery. However, on her way there, she gets stuck in a blizzard, and she ends up getting stranded at this rest stop. And when she gets to the rest stop, when she gets out of the car, she's parked beside this van, and she sees this little girl inside of a dog crate in the van. So she is now stuck at this rest stop with a person that is a kidnapper. So this book was absolutely amazing. This is another adult thriller. This is an action-packed adult thriller. Let me just tell you that I will never in my life go to a rest stop by myself, ever. Maybe not even with someone, because it literally will scare the living crap out of you. This book was just so good. And if you're looking for a action-packed thriller, I highly recommend picking this one up. And the last book that was one of my favorites during spring was My Favorite Survivor by V. Keelan and Penelope Ward. This book is about Hazel. She gets dumped right before her wedding, and she ends up going to her honeymoon anyway, which is in Colorado. While she's there, she is just really lonely and really just wants to go home, so she ends up going to the airport. There's a blizzard and all the flights are canceled. So she goes back to her hotel to hopefully get back into her room. However, all the rooms are now booked because of the blizzard, and she is just waiting it out to see if she can get a room. Hopefully, hoping somebody will cancel one of their rooms. So she overhears the receptionist call one of the other guests to make sure to see if they're going to be using their room or not. So in the meantime, this guy goes up to the counter and saying that he is checking in under Maddie and Milo Hooker, which is the same name that the receptionist was calling before. So Hazel knows that this guy is definitely not who he says he is, so she goes up to the counter as well and acts like she is Maddie. So luckily the reservation was for 2 rooms for Maddie and Milo because they are brother and sister, so they act like they are brother and sister. So while they are pretending to be Maddie and Milo, they end up making the best of it, and they end up hanging out with each other and getting to know each other better. So as this time goes on, they decide that they really do enjoy hanging out with each other and they want to continue doing that. So they decide that they just want to take a road trip. I love this book so much. When I read this, I really had no clue that it was set in Colorado in a snowstorm. By the cover, it looks like it is a summer read. It is not. I loved how they used their fake names throughout pretty much the whole entire book. I thought that was really fun. I felt like the couple had really great chemistry, and I felt like he literally was like a breath of fresh air. He was very kind and very sweet to Hazel. I usually don't like road trip books. However, this one was done so well and I just loved it so much. So if you're looking for a fun rom-com road trip romance, I highly recommend picking this one up. So those are the 5 books that I loved that I read in the spring. Let me know if you read any of these books and what you thought about them. And until then, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!